So welcome to our Bible study. Let us begin with prayer. Good and gracious God, we thank you for all the blessings of this day. As we begin this new year, we thank you for everything in creation. We thank you for all the things that you start anew. Dear Lord, our three congregations are going through a time now where things will change once again for them. Be with us, Lord, as we transition together, as we walk this new journey with you. Give us patience, give us strength, give us compassion towards one another as we work out the kinks in our new plans. Dear Lord, we know that all plans are in your hands, and we ask you to guide us and lead us and inspire us so that your will be done here in the Huntington community, not ours. We ask you to be with us today as we study one of the most famous scriptures, the Sermon on the Mount or the Sermon on the Plain, the Beatitudes, your wonderful blessings, where you touch the lives of those who feel forgotten and unseen. Help us to continue to remember that there are those who feel ignored, who feel unseen by many in our society. Help us to be the ones like Jesus that reach out to see them, to touch them, to heal them, and to let them know that your light shines on them. Dear Lord, be with us as we study your words and give us insight into your holy word. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so we're going to start with the Beatitudes. Let me share. So if this is in your way, if the boxes of people are in the way, you can do a couple things. You can actually kind of grab them and move them out of the way. Or if you hover over and look at the very top, there should be a single line that you can click on and it'll collapse everybody up. You won't see everybody, but the boxes won't be in your way. So we're going to first look at the introduction to the two of these. So would someone like to read the Matthew on the left?
Yeah, I'll read it.
Thank you, Joyce.
And Jesus went about all Galilee, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom and healing all manner of sickness and all manner of disease among the people. And his fame went throughout all Syria, and they brought unto him all sick people that were taken with divers diseases and torments, and those which were possessed with devils, and those which were lunatics, and those that had the palsy, and he healed them. And there followed him great multitudes of people from Galilee, and from Decapolis, and from Jerusalem, and from Judea, and from beyond the Jordan. And seeking the multitudes, he went up into a mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came unto him.
Okay, thank you. Would someone like to read our Luke version?
Sure, I'll do it. And he came down with them and stood in the plain, and the company of his disciples and a great multitude of people out of all Judea and Jerusalem, and from the sea coast of Tyre and Sidon, which came to hear him, and to be healed of their diseases. And they that were vexed with unclean spirits, and they were healed. And the whole multitude sought to touch him, for there went virtue out of him and healed them all.
Amen.
Okay, so these are the two kind of intros, the setting the scene for the Beatitudes. Now, what do we notice? What about the placement? Where are they set?
But by the sea.
Okay. But where else? There's a particular.
Matthew's is up a mountain. Luke is on the plain.
Right. Right. So Matthew's version is usually called the Sermon on the Mount. because he's up on the mountain, and it's a long sermon where he talks about many things, and the Beatitudes are one of those things. And so it's known as the Sermon on the Mount. Most people feel that it's kind of a parallel to Moses, who went up the mountain to see God. So this is both teaching on a mountaintop directed towards the disciples. Excuse me. In Luke, we see he probably was up on the mountain and he came down with the disciples and stood with the people. This one is referred to usually as Sermon on the Plain. Now, some of the research I did said that actually the setting was, the translation is hill country. It was in the hill country. So whether in one, they seem to be on the lower end of a hill and the other one on the upper end of a hill, we don't really know. And does it really make a difference?
No.
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 It was it was somewhere in a hilly place, on level ground of some kind, that this takes place. Now, what are the other similarities here that we find?
Healing of sicknesses and diseases.
Right, healing. Right, in Matthew, they go through and list a bunch of them. In Luke, it's more like they were healed of their diseases, and their and the vexing of the unclean spirits that they had. So they both have this healing, the seeking of a healing that was taking place, and they both have like a lot of people. Right? In Matthew, it talks about his fame had gone out so far that everybody came to see this great preacher, this person, that they followed him, and great multitudes came. And same thing in Luke. So that's very similar. That his legend had already. Here we are in the very beginning of the Gospels, Matthew chapter 4, Luke chapter 6, but already now at the beginning of the story, Jesus' popularity has gone out. And they both talk about the different areas: Judea, Jerusalem, Galilee, Decapolis, Jordan, that it wasn't just a little hometown boy, a little, private little thing. These were people from all over coming to seek healing and to hear a word from this preacher. In Matthew, it talks about his actually his teaching in the synagogues and the gospel. In Luke, again, Matthew is the storyteller that likes to fill in the whole scene and fill in a little bit more. Luke, tells stories as well, but not with as much detail as Matthew tends to tell them. Is there anything else in these intros that either you notice or maybe that surprises you? Maybe you didn't even ever pay attention to these intros?
I mean, I think the detail that Matthew gives when he's the great multitudes of people from Galilee, yes, from the Decapolis, which was a region where you wouldn't, necessarily think that people would, be looking for Jesus from that area at all, from Jerusalem and from Judea. So, I mean, Matthew really expands, the reach of who Jesus is speaking to. And I think that's pretty significant.
And then he adds from beyond the Jordan.
Yeah,
So
and from beyond the Jordan. So he's like everyone, everywhere kind of thing. And they're known part of the world.
yeah. I mean, this is who they knew that was there. Anything else that anybody?
Well, Luke says something about the whole multitude sought to touch him, for there went out virtue, and that's what the healing was about. That detail was Matthew doesn't say that, but I can imagine the scene if it's everybody's, in a big crowd and race going, trying to touch one person like a rock star or something would be now, getting as close to him as possible for what
Right.
he
Yeah, yeah. Could you
delivered.
imagine? I mean, I just as you were saying that, it brought to mind the healing of the woman with the hemorrhage, right? That was following him and reached out to touch his robe
Mhm.
because that she wanted the power. Here it says the virtue went out of him. Here, the same thing, like the power that this man had, or and was believed to have had, that you just had to touch him and you would be healed. Yeah, interesting. Matthew doesn't really say how they were healed, he just says he healed them.
Yeah.
But Luke adds in that story of the touching, the
And
physical.
some people have thought of the difference between the mount and the plain, that where the mount is really, like you said, referring to Moses up on the mountain, and kind of likening Jesus to a prophet, where Luke on the plain, and the way Luke speaks about it is more personal, one-on-one kind of really with the people that were suffering, and that was an intentional choice on Luke's part.
Right. Luke is all about being with the people and reaching out. If you look, it's opposite. At the beginning of Luke, it says he came down and stood with the people,
With that.
right, with them. In Matthew, it says he saw them and he went up.
Mm.
He almost kind of went away from them. Almost like Pat, you were saying with the rock stars. He was sort of like, oh my goodness. Now part of that is always seen as getting up higher so he could see everyone.
Yes,
And so
right.
the people could hear him, because if he was standing amongst a big crowd, no one would probably be able to even hear him or see him. So it would be logical to go to a higher place to be able to be seen and heard. But yeah, interesting in the way. And again, this is what we found in the comparisons last week, and we'll find in the ones to come, that each gospel writer has their audience, has the way that they want to approach things. Again, Matthew was talking to like a Jewish audience, so to him, they would know that comparison of Moses going up to the mountain. That would mean something to them. Luke talking to more of a mixed crowd wouldn't necessarily get that about the mountaintop, about Moses. They wouldn't, maybe not understand that. But Luke was in reaching out, touching the people. All right. Any other thoughts on the
Yeah,
intro?
they both mentioned how widespread the audience was geographically from their geographic destinations. But Matthew also mentions how Jesus had been going around the countryside, so to speak, and preaching, and his fame extended even further than that. And so it's not just that he was there and everybody came to him, that he was actually out
Right.
in the world or whatever.
Right.
I saw that too. I just, hi, by the way.
Right. Oh, you're Janet.
Oh, hi.
I got that when you were saying that when you saw in Matthew, we saw the people and then he went up. But I think he was down on the plane. I always read it like he was down on the plane doing all of this time. And then when it got a little crazy and everything later on, when all these people from not just Galilee, but everywhere else came from, and then he went up and then his disciples came to him. And I thought maybe that's where he taught them to get away a little bit from.
Mhm.
I didn't think of it that was one happening, and that maybe he went up so he could be seen and heard.
Yeah, I mean the the intro here talks about over time, right? Because it does say, it kind of gives a little background. Jesus was going about all of Galilee, teaching, preaching, healing. So much so that his fame was spreading everywhere, because every place he went somewhere, someone would be healed and go back home. And what happened? Oh, that Jesus, I was in Galilee in the synagogue and he healed me. And then they would tell somebody else. And so now as word spread, it would start to go throughout all of Syria, and other people would bring, oh, he healed you? Okay, let me bring my aunt back, or let me bring my mom. They need healing too. And so it started to become a huge movement. Yeah, and I'm sure part of it was Jesus saying, whoa, back off, people. I need a little space here. I can't breathe. Because you imagine that, if they keep multitudes, we don't know what that means, but to me, a multitude's lot. It's a lot of people.
Big crowd of people.
Yeah, big crowd. And so you could easily get a little overwhelmed and get lost. And sometimes, I mean, I haven't been in a big crowd like that since COVID, but I know, like, pre-COVID, if you were in a real crowded space, you tended to lose track of the people that were with you, or what, so even he might lose track of his disciples if he was in a big crowd. So this was like, okay, let's go so that we could be together, and that, I can gather my thoughts and now talk to these people, rather than from the midst of kind of chaos. Although in Luke, he seems to do it among them.
Interesting how he met their needs and their problems, and he kind of leveled the playing field with all of them, or most of them, and tried to get to their needs before he began to teach or preach.
Yes, right. So
Did that first.
took care of the most important thing.
Yeah, prioritize.
These people are not going to listen to me if they're worried about being healed.
Right.
They're standing here saying, is he going to heal me? Is he going to get to me? Is he going to get to mom? Is he going to, oh my goodness, I'm in pain. I can't walk, whatever. I'm possessed with demons. I need help. I can't, whatever it is. Their problems were, you can't concentrate and think if all that's going on in your head.
Mm-hmm.
So to have them be healed, then, well, first of all, now you gain people's trust and respect because you did what they came to you for. They came seeking healing, right? And I'm sure some of them were like, well, who knows if we're really going to be healed or not. So now if they all got healed, it would be like, oh, wow, this is the person they were talking about. We can trust him. This is somebody that's different from, all the other maybe prophets or the other people we have heard. I want to hear more from this person, right? It kind of would intrigue them and develop that level of trust and respect that they would be willing to now sit and listen to him teach and, give them, again, the Beatitudes is just part of those sermons, but, they would be able to listen more clearly. We all know if we're waiting for a response or we're thinking of something else, you don't really listen. You're developing your own thing. So if they were all thinking of, well, gee, I should be healed because I'm a good person or this, if you're trying to come up with some rationale, then you're not listening. But if that's taken away and now you're sitting there whole, maybe for the first time in your life, you can get a calm and a peace that you can now open up and hear and listen to the word of God a little bit better. So let's look at the next section. So again, we're just going to read through them first, and then we'll go through and compare them. So does someone want to read on the left side, the Matthew version?
I can read it.
Thank you.
And he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceeding glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For so persecuted they the prophets which were before you.
Okay, thank you. So that's Matthew's version, the Sermon on the Mount, Beatitudes. And now the right side is Luke's version. Someone wants to read that.
I'll read it. And he lifted up his eyes on his disciples and said, Blessed be you poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you that hunger now, for you shall be filled. Blessed are you that weep now, for you shall laugh. Blessed are you when men shall hate you, and when they shall separate you from their company, and shall reproach you, and cast out your name as evil for the Son of Man's sake. Rejoice you in that day and leap for joy, for behold, your reward is great in heaven. For in the like manner did their fathers unto the prophets. But woe unto you that are rich, for you shall have received your consolation. Woe unto you that are full, you shall hunger. Woe unto you that laugh now, for you shall mourn and weep. Woe unto you when all men shall speak well of you, for so did their fathers to the false prophets.
Okay. So what do we notice as our first glaring difference between these two sets of blessings?
Matthew uses theirs and Luke uses you.
Right? Right. Right. So Matthew is more like third person and Luke is like second person. Luke is more personal, like you. He's talking directly to the people. Matthew is more in general, like those people that mourn or those people that do this. Right? So that's one. What's another difference?
Luke's got some woe.
Luke's got some woes, right?
He must have been born on a Wednesday. Wednesday's child is full of woe.
Okay, that'd be interesting. We have to look that up. Yes, Matthew has 8 blessings, and Luke has 4 blessings and 4 woes.
Woe.
Right? So he puts a counter to, oh yeah, you people are blessed, but don't you be thinking you're sitting on easy street, all you people. Because if this applies to you, then
Another side of the coin.
yeah. So Luke throws a little twist in there, right? So he not only talks to those that are present and says, look, you may have these, you may be poor, hunger, or weep, and have people hate you, but it's okay. Your circumstances are going to turn around. You will be blessed. You all of you there, you will be blessed. Your situation will turn around. He gives them hope, right? And Matthew is a little more righteous, a little more. Luke's a little more practical, a little more down to earth. Matthew's are more like inheriting the earth and be righteous and seeing God and being called a child of God, right? So he has like a different level. But again, we have to remember that the audience, right? So Matthew was like a Jewish audience that were always looking to make sure they were righteous and to make sure they were good with God. So for them, these would be important things. Oh, it's okay. I may be this, but that's good because I will see the kingdom of heaven, or I will be a child of God. I will be righteous. They were looking for that kind of thing. Luke's people were more the common folk, more the everyday folk that were like, help me, I'm hungry, I'm poor, I'm mourning, I'm in grief. And Luke offers more of a practical, you will laugh, you will, you will eat, you will be okay. And
Yeah, so Luke is, blessed are the poor, the literal poor, the poor in front of them
Right.
in the masses, where Matthew is blessed are the poor in spirit. So appeals to maybe a wider range of people. But
Yes.
Luke is really bringing the fire here. I mean, he's bringing the heat about,
Yeah.
what is this message? And, what is Jesus is really was, calling it out. Those that hunger, in Matthew, Luke says, blessed are those that hunger, you're going to be filled. Where Matthew, it's blessed are they that hunger and thirst after righteousness. They're going to be filled. Luke is really bringing such a strong message for the poor and hungry in his version.
Right. He's really meeting them where they are. These are people that are hungry, they're poor, they're outcasts, they're they're not the powerful in
And
society.
he's calling out the powerful, and
Yes.
because it's a multitude of people, it's going to be all, various, incomes and situations, and he's calling them out.
Right. He reverses, what reminds me of the Magnificat, right? Where Luke, which is also in Luke, where they talk about Jesus coming, not just to lift up the poor, but to bring down. Not just to lift up those that have nothing, but to make it right, to level it out. Because, the people, they're like, okay, well, I'm going to get what I need, but should they still get away with being mean to me and being greedy? And, they need to have their fair comeuppance as well. And so Luke was saying, look, you guys are going to be taken care of. And those that think they have it all, watch out. It's not going to last. It's going to be temporary for them.
Yeah, he kind of warns in Luke. He kind of warns them that you're laughing now, but maybe you'll be crying later.
That's right. Exactly. It's like, yeah, don't be sitting there saying, this doesn't apply to me. I got plenty of food in my cupboard. We've never gone hungry a day in our lives. We have plenty of money. And he's saying, yeah, not so fast. Not so fast there. So yeah. So that's the main things. We're gonna go through them now, like one at a time, and we'll look at each one. But first, just want to talk about what is it to be blessed? What is a blessing? Talking here about blessed be, blessed are. What does it mean to be blessed?
To be fortunate,
Okay, yeah.
Be
whether
loved
you
by
deserve it.
God.
Yes. Right. It's to be granted like some kind of well-being or prosperity, some kind of better fortune. You're blessed when you have something like positive is happening. So all these blessings are like a positive twist onto something that is negative. So it's taking a negative situation and spinning it to a positive. It's saying, okay, you're gonna, don't, fear. It's almost like saying, fear not those people that are poor. You will have the kingdom of, heaven. Fear not. You will get what you need. It's turning circumstances around and granting them some well-being and some peace. If we just look at the first line, though, I'm just looking at this. In Matthew, it says, and he opened his mouth and taught them. And then in Luke, it says, and he lifted up his eyes on his disciples and said.
Well, I'll give you one unusual argument, which was that some in seminary, it's quite the hot debate that Jesus was a diminutive, short person, and people will comb through the Bible and find small passages like this, or like Zacchaeus.
Lifted up high.
Zacchaeus went up in the tree because he had to look down over the people to see Jesus because he was short of stature. So, people have argued that Jesus was small. So he lifted his eyes because he was small, a shorter person.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I
but
never
you didn't-
heard that.
Never heard that one.
yeah. There's entire books written about it.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm sure.
All right, interesting. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm sure you could make arguments for that, to be sure. And that would make sense why he would want to go up to a mountaintop to be seen, and to be able to see, because if you were in a crowd and everyone was taller than you, you can't really see what's going on.
Stand
Yeah,
up
and what I appreciate about the idea of it is that we picture Jesus as, this, the tallest, strongest, most muscular, six-pack abs hanging on the cross kind of a Jesus, right? And so if it was a Jesus that was, maybe a little more atypical or had a disability, some said, argue that he had a hand that didn't work as well, that it changes our idea of Jesus and almost brings more power to God's presence in this world and connecting with people that aren't, that are thought of in different ways. So anyway.
I bet short people wrote those books.
I don't know. That sounds like a bunch of that PC stuff to me.
Sometimes people kind of twist themselves into a knot to make a point. So who
Would he
knows? I
lift
know. I mean,
His eye
I'm
to
sorry.
get recognition from his father.
I didn't hear that. Could you repeat that, Annabelle?
Yes. Would he have lifted up his eyes to get recognition from his father?
Yeah.
That he was doing his
Sure.
True.
will.
Yep, that's definitely another way to look at it. He lifted up, towards heaven, right? Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. And in Matthew, he just opened his mouth and started blurting stuff out.
I always kind of looked at it like he lifted up his eyes on his disciples, all the people who were there, people who were coming and following him or whatever. But he lifted up his eyes like he looked at them. He really saw them. He looked into their eyes.
Mhm.
I think of it more like that.
Or like he
And-
met their eyes, kind of like, right?
Yeah, he looked, he saw them.
And
He
Right.
saw each of them. He didn't just
Mhm.
No.
expect. He
And that would
connected. I guess that's the word I'm looking for.
really fit with the Luke narrative, that he connected with the people personally.
He came and stood among them and really looked at them. Yeah, I love that.
And said, to them, to their faces, in their eyes, blessed be you who are poor. Like, I see you. I know you're poor. I know it stinks, but don't worry. We got you. This is, you're blessed. Yeah. All right. So let's look at each one here. So they both start with the poor. And they both get, it's the same outcome, the kingdom of heaven, right? One is theirs, one is yours. So who is someone that's poor in spirit? How would we explain someone who's poor in spirit?
Someone whose faith is challenged.
Okay.
Someone who doesn't feel or see God working in their life.
Right. Someone that feels ignored, someone that maybe just is very humble. They don't have a high, maybe a high opinion of themselves.
Not a lot of self-confidence.
Right. Right. Right.
That would be the short people.
Oh, now, Peter, be nice. But with that song, Short People, which we won't
Yeah.
sing.
No reason.
But
I-
yeah. And then in Luke, he's as Vicar Jean mentioned earlier, in Luke's it's more like poor the way we would like financially poor, like people that have nothing, like um they have no wealth, they have no power, and you know, so here, you know, they may be at the end of their rope, that they don't know where their next meal will come from. And yet here they're saying, but yours is the kingdom of heaven. Like you are special. You will be God's kingdom. Even though it looks like things are not good and you may not have a whole lot of hope now, but it will turn around and you will be blessed by God. And then the next one is in Matthew it's mourn and in Luke it's weep. Right? So in Matthew, those that are mourning are comforted, right? Which we would expect. We comfort people that are mourning. And in Luke, it's again that reversal. Okay, you're
Hi.
crying now, but you're gonna laugh. So the mourning and the weeping can be what, from a loss? Maybe they lost somebody, they have some grief, or it's also suggested it could be like because they're sinful and they're kind of separate, they're mourning their separation from God, that they don't have a good relationship with God. And that they would be, they'll be blessed. They'll be comforted by God, by each other. And then again, in Luke, it talks about laughing. Vicar Jean, do you know what that noise is out in the hallway?
No, I just saw a worker go by with tools, so that's why I stuck my head out to see
Yeah, like a drill
what
or
was
a
happening. Yeah, I'm not sure
What
what's
the heck is
happening.
going on out there?
I couldn't see something's happening, but I'm not sure what it is.
I don't know. All right, sorry, I don't know. Anyway, so then we have the next one in Matthew is meek, for they shall inherit the earth, right? And this one's only really in the Matthew. So it talks about, what do we consider someone that's meek?
Humble,
Humble,
shy,
be shy, could be,
meek,
willingness to submit, someone that's, doesn't need to have all the power, that's willing to be a follower, willing to kind of go along, and they don't need to have it all about them. And they, sometimes the meek are those that would put their trust in God, right? They don't need to, it doesn't need to be about me. It doesn't need to be my power. I can rely on God's power. I can be in the face of the Lord.
Maybe those that society kind of walks over or steps over because they're more powerful than them.
Yeah. Yeah, they get a little pushed around in life. Yeah. And so here it's saying, you shall inherit the earth. So it's, it's okay that you're, being meek is not a bad thing. It's okay. It can be a blessing, and you are blessed to rely on God, and you will be an inheritor of the earth. And then the next one is in both. It talks about hunger and thirst for righteousness, being satisfied. Here it goes to more the hunger. In Luke, again, the hunger in Luke is more like empty stomach hunger, right? And in Matthew, it's more of a hunger that you can't be satisfied. Like you just don't. Um, I would think of maybe like Martin Luther was like this, right? He never thought he was good enough. He kept always searching after being better, doing better. He hungered for righteousness. And so here, it's saying that they will be filled, they will get to be satisfied that I am okay, that I can be righteous. And in Luke, it's more, your stomach will be full.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
you won't die of, you will eat. You will be able to be sustained in what you eat. Again, Matthew, go ahead.
I was just saying, it's beautiful that we have both of these versions, right?
Yeah.
And how Luke really calls us out to, be a part of God's kingdom here by feeding the hungry and so forth.
Right. I mean, I think they work great together. I think there's beauty in both of them. I don't think we need to necessarily think of one as better or worse than the other. I think they together, they are a nice combo of making sure that all are seen and cared for. So we have blessed are the merciful in Matthew, for they shall obtain mercy. So this speaks of God's merciful overflowing, and to I guess kind of give as you get. I can't think of the words to say it, but kind of like be merciful and you will obtain mercy too. Like that.
It's almost like the golden rule to treat that way you want to be treated.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Right. If you expect to have mercy from
You need
others,
to be merciful to others.
then you need to show that.
And the Lord's Prayer, forgiving trespasses.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Same thing like that. Okay. It can't always be one way. You can't say, well, oh, please show mercy on me. Well, okay. But then you need to show mercy on me too. It's not a one-way street that, we need to care for each other. We need to comfort each other. We need to show mercy the way God shows mercy for us, which is, without any restrictions. Then again, Matthew, we have pure in heart. Who would be someone that's pure in heart?
Children.
Children?
Innocence, yeah, the innocence of the
Yep.
bunch.
Yep. I mean, we usually think of no one but Jesus being, like 100% pure in heart, right?
The person that's always forgiving,
Mhm.
no matter what's been dealt to them, they forgive and see the good in other people and the good in a situation.
Right. The person who always puts, always sticks up for one another, puts the positive spin on thing, that's not looking for their own, glory to shine, that really seeks the welfare of everyone. A real good, merciful, caring,
And they see the face of, Jesus in everybody.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So maybe they've already seen God, right, in the face of those that they are with and that they care for. Right. And so it's it's a reminder that, everyone that we see is a blessing to us. And that we can be blessed when we try to please God and kind of keep a pure heart, as pure as we can. Then we have peacemakers in Matthew, who are children of God. And who are the peacemakers?
mean, who specifically, or
No
what
type
just-
of attributes, yeah.
oh, level-headed,
Level-headed.
possibly able to see both sides of an issue.
Definitely. Yeah. People that can like break down walls, people that are good at maybe like arbitrators.
Yeah,
people that can go into
diffusing.
a
Yeah.
situation, right, diffuse the situation and
Mhm.
go in and say, all right, let's see, okay, what's your side? What's your side? And be able to bring people together, right? In some kind, maybe a compromise, maybe, often we're both kind of on the same side, but we're saying it differently, and we need someone to say, wait, you're saying the same thing. It's okay. And sometimes not. Sometimes you need to call a person and say, no, you're wrong. You need to say you're sorry or whatever to the other person. But there are people that have a gift for this and that really can help break down walls and bring people together, encourage cooperation between people. And that's a skill, and it's a wonderful thing. And here he's calling them children of God. I think because he's bringing the children of God together, right? They are gathering God's people together. And then this next one is in both of them, the persecuted for righteousness sakes. In Luke, it goes on with people will hate you and they'll separate you and they'll reproach you and cast out your name. Awful, awful things. And here again in Matthew, it's same thing, persecuted for righteousness' sake, and then it goes on to the reviling and persecuting and say evil things against you. Right. Why do you think this was added in? I think that speaks to their time of what was going on.
Yeah,
Oh, sure.
who was in charge there and there?
Right. And things that were happening to Jesus, right? They were reviling him and trying to persecute him, or they would be, and kind of like a foreshadowing. And like, look, I'm going to take it, but if you try to stand up for me, they're going to take it out on you too.
Mhm.
So just know that, there's danger. There's danger in trying to stand up for righteousness, in trying to do the right thing. It's a dangerous walk. But he turns it around and says to them, you'll be blessed, but rejoice and be happy. Leap for joy that people are persecuting you, that people hate you.
That reminds me of denying him like Peter did, but the resurrection, the rejoice part, the resurrection after reviling you, persecuting you, because you speak like a Galilean, you must be one of him. Or
Right.
They were afraid they were going to be on trial and be accused of all things the way Jesus was. But when they stuck it out,
Right.
it was time to rejoice.
Right. It's like, blessed are you because you're going to have a tough road ahead of you. You're going to have enemies, but that's good. It's good you're going to have enemies, because then when you defeat them, you can rejoice. You can rejoice. And they both bring in the prophets, right? To remind the people that, remember, this happened to many people before you. It would not be the first time that you would be persecuted for doing or saying God's word. And it's not going to end. So, just because, I may seem like a nice, peaceful guy that that you may think, oh, of course, I need to follow this person and believe in him, and follow his teachings, it does not mean it's that everyone's going to accept that. There's going to be people that are not happy, just like they weren't happy with many of our prophets who came and said great things, but people did not listen to them. So it's kind of a twist here. You're going to rejoice, but remember what they did to the prophets.
Mhm.
And then we have in Luke is the only one that has the woes, which kind of like the anti-beatitudes.
The anti-
The anti,
Where it like flips it.
the flip
Okay.
side.
You that are rich, guess what? You've already got yours. You're not getting any more. You got to start giving others their fair share. All those you oppressed, your workers, you gave unfair wages.
Mhm.
It's okay to have money and it's okay to have what you need. But when it becomes greed, when it becomes idolatry, when it becomes an unhealthy attachment, that's a problem.
Mhm.
When you feel that you have everything, that's a problem. And we're going to call you out on it. Because you think of the early church when Jesus left, how the early followers, they would gather and share everything, right? Because they were listening to some of these teachings that, okay, we all need enough to survive, but if we pool everything that we have, we'll all survive and we'll have plenty. If we share, we'll be okay. But that was not how society was operating then. And then woe to you that are full, for you will be hungry now. So don't think that just because you always had plenty of food or you've had the respect and whatever you've needed doesn't mean you can rely on your past success. You're going to be called to account. What are you doing now? What are you doing to further the kingdom? And again, the laughter before he has the weeping and will laugh. It's like, well, those that are laughing now, you're going to be the ones weeping and mourning. And then the last one is kind of reversing the other one where men hating you and speaking poorly. And it's like, whoa, all those that think that they're, whatever. And people say how wonderful you are. Don't get too comfortable. Don't be too full of yourself. Don't be all vain and thinking that you don't do anything wrong. You're gonna, you're like a false prophet, and you're gonna wind up in trouble, and you're gonna have things fall apart on you. Kind of reminds me of folks that see themselves as better than others, that can point out others' faults and don't see it in themselves. We recently had the reading of the parable of the Pharisee and the publican, where they were both praying, and one says, well, at least I'm not like him over there. He was not perfect, but he chose to concentrate on the other man's imperfectness and think that he was better in some way so that he could cast down the other person. So it's like, you run into trouble when you start deciding who's higher than others, start stratifying, start saying, well, I'm better than you, I have more than you, better house, better whatever. It's a slippery slope, and you run into some trouble. So the woes point out what? They point out an attachment to
Materialism.
materialism, right? Pride, vanity, greed. And what does all that lead to?
What does it lead to?
Separation with God and with other people.
Right. It leads to ruin. It leads to separation with people around you that maybe you've discounted or cast aside. It leads to separation with God. It leads to, in the end, unhappiness. Your money is like, they say your money can't buy you happiness. it's nice to have things and be comfortable, but if you're mean to people and you don't have relationships with them and you treat other people horribly, have fun sitting on your money because no one's going to come talk to you. Like, you're not going to have any friends. You're not going to have a good life if all you worry about is material things. So here Luke is really, as Vicar Jean had said, really taking it to them, really down and dirty. Like, this is life, people. This is where you live. You live where there are those who have and those who have not. And let's be very careful on what side of that you're on, and to call others out for being on one side or the other. That it's not always what you see. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute.
Yeah.
So our Beatitudes are kind of like guidelines, right? They're kind of like
Yeah.
ways
The
to.
10
You're breaking up, Annabelle. What?
the 10 Commandments.
Yeah. Ten Commandments are guides too, and some of these do go against the Ten Commandments, right? They talk about, idolizing yourself, putting up false idols instead of trusting in God, things like that. Yeah, I could see there's a little bit of a relationship here
Mhm.
between that. But again, Jesus was about breaking things down so people could understand them, right? So the Ten Commandments were about, well, that was God doing that, but same thing, making it easy for people to understand, how do I live in community? How do I
Right.
live with other people? How do I live with God?
I think Luke does that too.
He does, exactly.
Breaks it
And
down
so,
today's world, right?
right. So Jesus was always about, when anyone said, what do I have to do to inherit the earth? And they would talk about the 10 Commandments, and he's like, yep, follow the 10 Commandments. And then he would add on, and love your neighbor, right? So if you follow the commandments, actually kind of following the commandments is loving your neighbor. If you did that, that meant you loved your neighbor, because you're not stealing or false witness or coveting. You are having a good relationship with your neighbor. So together, the whole love God, love your neighbor,
And
the
he's lifting up, society is,
Huh?
look at who society holds up. The rich and the powerful and this, and he's saying that's not what God holds up. And he's
The
reminding them,
liars.
this is what God holds up. This is who God is lifting up, not what society is telling us, but what God is lifting up is different.
Right, and look who comes. The multitudes come to him, right? The people come to see Jesus because they're tired of being pushed around. They're tired of being oppressed. They're tired of getting nothing in return for all their hard work and their sacrifice. And they see someone that is finally saying, you are worth something. God loves you and you are blessed.
Okay.
And so imagine how that feels after a life of being told you're nothing and you're worthless and you don't count. And all of a sudden someone looks you, we're talking about, maybe it was him looking them in the eye, right? Finally, somebody looking you in the eye and saying, you are loved, you count, you are blessed. Which I think is why this is such an important scripture. And I think it was Pat that said, right, if when in doubt, read the Beatitudes and something, right?
Right.
It doesn't hurt to remind ourselves of these things, because on any given day, there's someone sitting in the pew that feels one of these things. They feel lost, they feel alone, they feel sad, they feel hungry for, maybe for real food, or maybe just for a little recognition or for a little status. And so for us to be reminded that, we don't need to equate how society counts being successful with how we're successful. That if, we are good people and have a good relationship with God and do the, things, are merciful, are kind, comfort each other, that's what counts in God's world. and that we are important to God.
I'm gonna have to leave you. Bye.
Okay, no, I know you got to go to choir, right?
Yeah.
Have fun. We're going to end in a second, Joyce.
Bye.
Any other thoughts on our